Before I get into today's video, remember to follow me on Twitter. So my Twitter, the link is in the description below. You can also find me. My handle is @JacksonKruger. Come over, say hi, and anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. All right, so the Patriots' hot streak continues. They defeat the Atlanta Falcons, which we all expected them to do, but still, it's one thing to be expected to win, another thing to actually win. We've seen plenty of upsets this season. We would not see an upset today. Very impressive win by New England, by the Patriots, I think. I really want to talk about the Patriots defense going up against the Falcons offense. I do have to be honest, a good chunk of it was the Falcons offense wasn't great, but I thought the Patriots defense also did some stuff really well. So I want to talk about what exactly happened. So let's just get into the film study. So right off the bat, we did see stuff like this where Ryan just gets sacked immediately. I'm going to show the other angle to break it down. So I've paused it right here. And what you're going to see Judon do is he's going to try a rip move, which means you get your right arm and you kind of get it underneath the right tackle's left arm. That's what Judon is trying to pull off right here. And look, Judon does that. And you see the right tackle in this play. You see his hand, which is right near Judon's face area. This is 76, which is Caleb McGarry, former first-round pick, who's not great. So this isn't a great situation for Atlanta. As Troy Aikman brought up on the broadcast, you do have a back who's blocking, but he is not chipping Judon here. So basically, the issue with this for McGarry is you actually are kind of allowed to hold right here. You're allowed to keep your arm where it's at. That is illegal because of the rip move. Because Judon basically forces your hand there. You're allowed to keep it there. You don't have to move it. However, it seems like McGarry basically just gets out-muscled here. Look, Judon just, powers through, and that's how he gets the quick sack to Matt Ryan on that one. So, listen, I am kind of a believer in oftentimes a lot of sacks are, tend to be more coverage sacks than you would think. This one still, even this one, it happened at 2.3.5 seconds. So it wasn't super long. You do have time if your first read is open, but on a 3rd down and 9, you're going to need at least 2.5 seconds. Ryan doesn't have that. So really good play from Judon, regardless of how you feel about that. This play was another one. It's another big play. It's a 3rd down and 1 right here. And what's going to happen is that basically there's just a miscommunication. So worth noting, Atlanta has an extra offensive lineman in the game here, but he's running a route, so he's not going to be blocking. However, I don't know if everyone on Atlanta's offensive line realizes this, because just looking at this logically, so the offensive line is shifting to the left, which means the center is going to block towards his left, which you maybe would change around, but I think this makes sense, actually, because there are 3 players who could be blitzing on that side, as in 3 players who could be rushing the passer on that side, the 2 defensive linemen, and a 3rd player who could be blitzing. So then what you do is you have your guard who can block one, usually the defensive tackle there. Your tackle would be looking at the, typically the defensive end. And then, while Kyle Van Noy doesn't have someone who's going to pick him up and block him, you do at least have a halfback blocking so he can pick up Van Noy. So you should have everyone accounted for on this play. However, again, I got to pick on Caleb McGarry for a second because this is not going to be a good play whatsoever. I just think this is the miscommunication because watch what he does. He just lets a New England player go right by him and runs to block someone else. I legitimately, when I saw this, my first reaction was, oh, this is a screenplay. They're setting up a screen right here when I saw him, but I realized, no, that's not a screen. Maybe he thought it was a screen. I don't know. But he completely screws up, which now means that, so it's a little bit confusing because the guy who he was supposed to block ends up getting blocked by the halfback now, and now this leaves Kyle Van Noy unblocked. So it's not exactly the same thing, but the reason why Van Noy is unblocked is because of McGarry. You now have, down the field, there were 2 open Atlanta players. People were criticizing this play call. Why are you passing here? It worked. The play call worked. The execution didn't. You got to just know who you're supposed to block, and these kind of things happen. And again, I'm criticizing McGarry, but it's worth mentioning this could be on Matt Ryan as well. And typically I blame this sort of protection stuff on the quarterback, although given that everyone handled it right except for one guy, I'm more likely to say that I think that Ryan probably did call it correctly and McGarry screwed it up. So I don't know. I'm not in the huddle, obviously. But regardless, you got to do better than that. I also think Ryan could have still maybe tried to throw it here. However, Van Noy jumps up, which kind of takes that away and still finishes off the sack. So great play by Kyle Van Noy for sure, but you got to do better at protecting your quarterback there if you are that Falcons offensive line. And again, it's a communication thing. It's not a talent thing on that one. The last one was a talent thing. This is just communication. I think this next play is actually a really good example of what just caused so much trouble for this Atlanta Falcons offense, where this is what should be a very easy time to run the football. The New England Patriots have a cover 2 play going. They're kind of showing as though maybe it could be something else, but this is a straight cover 2. They're both dropping back into coverage, and so you're running the football. This should be an advantage. I mean, you look at just the concept on the screen, they're actually leaving edge rusher Kyle Van Noy on the bottom of the screen unblocked. You could block him, but they're going to instead leave him unblocked and have a true double team to the offense's left. So this is something that just, it has to get you, honestly, you want to get like 7 yards on this play, maybe even 10 yards on this play. That's what you hope for. That's a solid run, not a great run. It's a solid run. It's like 8 yards against cover 2. But instead, Ryan's going to hand the ball off, and they don't get anything. I mean, they get 0 yards on a great situation. I mean, that just can't happen. And, you know, it's not like, okay, the decision to leave Kyle Van Noy unblocked did them in. Not really. I mean, Van Noy did eventually make the tackle, but it's because they couldn't clear up a running lane to begin with. And if you clear that up, you're gaining 7 yards on this play. They couldn't figure out how to do it. So we saw Atlanta try to counter this a little bit by just doing stuff like this, where it's like, okay, you can't run the ball and teams are playing cover 2. What do you do against it? Well, you could do stuff like this. This is actually cover 3 right here, so not cover 2, which is very different. But still, it's the same idea, where you have one receiver kind of run a little bit further deep, Pitts runs underneath, and basically the idea is whoever zone that is for New England, they'll cover the first guy. Kyle Pitts then can, gain less yards, but you still gain some yards and methodically move down the field. Look, so you're going to see Matt Ryan. He, makes a good quick throw. They are able to gain some yards, but it's just, the reality is it's just hard to get a drive going that way down that way. You're going to eventually make a mistake. There's going to be a penalty. You're going to face a third down. Stuff's going to go wrong, and you're going to have to figure something out. Like on this exact drive, what would then happen would be this 4th down and 1. They decide they want to run the ball up the middle, despite the fact that they've had really no success through that all game long. And really take a look at the centers matchup right here. That's Matt Hennessy going up against, I believe that number is, unless I'm reading it wrong, I believe it's Carl Davis, 98. It's hard to see. We can't get a great look at the actual number. But regardless, just watch how he pushes that line back and is able to make a tackle. I mean, that's just another great example of just this constant, they just can't get anything going. The interior offensive line for Atlanta not doing well, or the defensive line for the interior for New England doing very well. I guess take your pick. Let's talk about the interception. This one was kind of backbreaking. You're thinking, all right, here we're going. We're driving now. New England made this shift all of a sudden to playing cover 1. Don't really know why, because, it's kind of a baffling decision. Atlanta's going to pass the ball more now, so why are you now paying more attention to the run? I didn't really get this. They like to do this where they'll mix things up in like the 4th quarter. I just don't know why you do it when Atlanta is still struggling to solve your cover 2 stuff. So Ryan's going to look to Kyle Pitts. He's already hit Kyle Pitts on this route for a good one. He's been able to move the ball a little bit against this cover 1 man blitz coverage that is probably New England's quote-unquote base coverage, although, as we know, they mix up more than anybody. But this is a play that could work. Like, watch what happens. So Kyle Duggar, who's covering him, and did a solid job. I mean, it was a good matchup. Both guys had their W's in this one. You could argue he maybe could have gotten a hold there, but, it's in that gray area where you could call it, could not. Doesn't get a call. But Kyle Pitts fights through it anyways. He's open right here, and it's just kind of going to be a weird situation where Ryan sees this, and he's going to make a throw. And look, I mean, quite frankly, I think that Kyle Pitts makes that catch if he continues running. He just stopped for whatever reason. I don't really get that. That's tough. It's certainly not on Ryan. It's on Kyle Pitts, I would say. And it's just a tough situation where, they could have gotten a completion, but that's kind of the thing is for New England, you make them kind of have to methodically move down the field. Eventually, a mistake is going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, hey, good win for the Patriots. You would also see another interception later, which was really just a high throw that ended up getting picked by J.C. Jackson. But again, that kind of goes back to the thing, right, of you make them have to, run 12 plays in a drive, eventually there's going to be a high throw, and you have a team that can take advantage of that. So, for the Patriots, good win. For the Falcons, it's looking tough. There was some hope when you were 4-4, but not looking so good right now. But hey, that 7th seed in the NFC, seemingly no one wants it. Maybe you can find a way to turn it around, but I think they're just, it's a rebuilding year for Atlanta. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.